Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 21 of Death Note. And yeah, L has decided to take matters into his own hands. Nobody's listening to him, so he's like, I'm going to solve the case on my own and find Kira. And he's just drugged Light along with him, and Misa as well. So he's keeping his friends close and his enemies closer. So, because he's still very much convinced that L and that Light and Misa are Kira. He thinks that it's an act, or that they've lost their memory, but that Kira, aka Light, has made up a plan that he'll get his memories back once this case is solved. I think L's right, because L's been right pretty much this entire series. He just doesn't have the concrete evidence. I realized the other day, it was kind of like, for L, it's like solving proofs in geometry. He has the answer, he knows the answer, but the steps of how to get that answer, he's like, I don't know, but here's the answer. Why can't this count and be right? That's kind of where L is at this point, and I'm kind of with him. I'm like, I know what he's trying to do and trying to prove. We talked last episode about all the moral grayness that comes with L and Light's characters at this point. I feel like the first half was revealing just kind of how far gone Light had become, and then this half seems like it's proving how far gone L is. So it's interesting, right? But I have some comments before we start. Lyndon Price commented about Wheatie in episode 19 in her suit looked like DC's Catwoman. I was like, oh yeah, I said like Austin Powers because it looked very 70s. But yeah, it does kind of look like the DC Universe Catwoman from the comics. I like that a lot, Lyndon. That was really cool to note. Haranka Otakara talked about eye for an eye, as L says. And the funny thing about that line, eye for an eye, that he says, and that's when they're fighting and he like punches Light, or Light punches L and L kicks him back. The thing about that is that eye for an eye mentality is kind of Light's mentality as Kira. That's kind of the crazy thing, is that Light as Kira is like, well, these people did bad things, so they deserve bad things to happen to them. That eye for an eye mentality is kind of Light's mentality as Kira, and L kind of adopts it. So it's very curious, right? Now, obviously, there's lots of complications with that, and if you involve the sense of justice and all this other stuff with it, it gets complicated and layered. But that is curious that at its core, it is similar to Light's mentality. So it's like, okay, L, interesting. Space Monkey pointed out that Ryuga's actor from that episode was the actor that was going to kiss Misa in episode 9 is Kensuke Nishi, not Yuki Kaji. Kensuke Nishi, and he's not really credited in the series for that. He's gone on and done some other work, most notably in Blue Exorcist, but it is interesting that that actor also did the voice for Pseudo, who was the bully classmate that Light was considering killing in episode 1. So that's cool. So this guy that played Pseudo way back in episode 1 played the voice of this model that Misa is having nothing to do with. Good to know. Thank you, Space Monkey. That was very helpful. Bernard Black talked about the concept of, does power reveal or does power corrupt? And they were saying in the comments that they prescribe more to the idea that power reveals over power corrupting. And I'm like, can't it be both? Can we have it both ways? I think power can reveal characters and what they truly think and believe, but I also think it can corrupt as well. I think it very much can alter a person just as much as reveal who they really are. So I think you can have it both ways. I think you can have your cake and eat it too, just not a good cake, right? So that was good to know, Bernard Black. I appreciated that. And then finally, Alexander Q talked about how Matsudo, he did act rash in episode 19. Yes. But so has in the past Soichiro, Daddy Yagami, when he like took the car into the building when we first met Misa, but also Aizawa nearly ran out to the building to try and get, revenge for his colleague falling. And in the case of Aizawa, L stopped him. L was like, no, don't do that. That's a bad idea. You'll die. And in Daddy Yagami's case, and also Matsuda's case, L was not around to stop them. In Daddy Yagami's case, it worked out great because it's Soichiro. But in Matsuda's case, I mean, it worked out all right in the end. But I find it interesting that those 3 cases where people have kind of gone off the rails and acted on their own accord has been either with or without L in certain capacities. So that's interesting. So we can give Matsuda a hard time for episode 19, but he's not the only rebel in this series, clearly. And also along with that comment is the idea that the show almost wants you to want it to be L versus Light again. Alexander was talking about this in their comment. And I was like, yeah. I mean, the Yotsuba group they're kind of, I made fun of them for saying like, it's a good thing we saw that murder. And I was like, well, that's kind of dumb. And Alexander was like, yeah, this show almost wants you to root for it to be Light versus L again, and for the Yotsuba group to kind of just get shuffled off, right? Because the Yotsuba group are just a bunch of normal people that with the Death Note, it's kind of like, eh. But like Ryuk said to Light, he's like, you're interesting. You're going to be fun with the Death Note. And we've seen that him versus L is so intriguing and fascinating and has so much energy charged to it that you just want to keep watching. And so, yeah, it's almost like the mangaka's like, do you want L versus Light again? I could do that if you want to. And I'm like, I'm torn because I like Boy Scout Light, but then I'm like, oh, show, you're going to bring him back, aren't you? L's been on the money this entire series. He's just been short of proof. And I'm like, L's going to be right again, isn't he? We'll see. We'll see. But those are my comments for this episode. And I did it in 5 minutes. I feel so proud. So I'm excited. This new OP, I'm ready. I watched the English dub of this episode, and the OP, the new one, there are no lyrics in the English dub, because I was like, oh, I'll check out some of the lyrics while I'm watching. There are no lyrics. It's just the music. And I'm like, So basically every time we watch the new OP from here on in Death Note, I'm going to try to pick out new things each, like new bits and pieces as we go. And by the end of the series, maybe I'll have it all figured out. I do like this OP because like other series that I've watched, it's one of those OPs that you don't know the spoilers unless you know the context. So there's lots of characters, new imagery, things like that, but I don't know what they mean because I've not gotten to those episodes yet. So I like that. So don't spoil that. But I'm pretty excited to see what all goes down in this episode. So let's dive in, shall we? We're going to start episode 21 of Death Note. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So, Death Note, welcome back. Honestly, I've missed Rem. I've missed Rem. I miss Ryuk dearly. And episodes 16 through 20 were fine. They were great. And I was like, and Boy Scout Light was wonderful. But I was like, the twists and turns that the Shinigami give to this, I was like, I've been waiting for Rem to come back and do something. And she comes back. Girl comes back. Oh my god, Misa! This was if episode 19 was Matsuda's episode, this was Misa's episode. Girl is something else. I respect Misa a lot more in this episode. And I'm also quite fearful of her a lot more in this episode. I'm like, it's not really the quiet ones we have to worry about. It's the really ditzy ones, because she's not really ditzy in real life. There's a lot to Misa's character. And now we know. I don't know why I really didn't think it was Higuchi that was Kira. I don't know why. I feel like because at the party, I guess that was the point, was that he was so like flamboyant at the party and everything that it seems like he's acting like too nonchalant to be Kira, but no, he's just that disgusting. Here's my thing. I'm used to like Light being Kira, who is like super cautious, overly prepared and everything. This guy is not Light. This guy is garbage. And that's kind of the point, is that he's pretty easy to come across as Kira, but oh my God. So the OP, I love the OP still. It's great. I love it. I can't wait to dissect it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's just going to be great. I have a feeling I'm going to dissect the lyrics as we go through this episode. But so we get this, basically, we're going to talk about Misa. I'm going to bring Whiteboard Kun up here. We're going to talk about Misa and her whole deal. We're going to talk about that there. We're going to have that. We're going to talk about Rem. Going to talk about Rem and what she kind of reveals in this. And then, of course, we're going to talk about Higuchi, who is the third Kira. We're going to put third Kira up here. We're going to put him right there. As far as we know, Higuchi is the only Kira. That's as far as we know, he's the only one. Elle suspected that it could be possible that there were two. But as far as we know, Higuchi's acting alone. And I think he is acting alone because it would seem he's such a greedy person and kind of like just that gross that I feel like he wouldn't work with anybody else. He would want that power all to himself. And now that he thinks that Misa's the second Kira, he wants her to all to himself as well. So I don't think anybody else is the other Kira unless there's someone unsuspectingly as Kira that even Higuchi doesn't know about that has the powers. But I think it's mainly Higuchi that has the notebook, and he's the only one. And then we're going to put Light over here, and Light will be there. And then we'll round out by putting L/Ryuzaki over here. Special shout out to Mogi, aka Mochi, in this episode. I love that Misa's nickname from his Mochi, and that he has to pose as a manager. I was like, why is he posing as the manager? But then I realized Matsuda is supposedly dead, so it has to be Mogi, because Daddy Yagami would be too noticeable as the former chief of police. Makes sense. I also like that Mochi is trying his hardest to be super enthusiastic, and he's just like, it's like if Matsuda was good at one thing, it was being charismatic and being like, he could play off like the bumbling goof. Mochi or Mogi is like, this is a lot for me. So we have that Coil has reported that Misa Amane might know L. And the thing is, she does know L. She just doesn't know his name, right? And so L questioned Amane, and they need to go through it. And here's the problem. And then we focus on him. He says he deduced that Amane worships Kira. And that's when that guy notices. It should all have been clear. I was convinced that it was the guy with glasses or that it was the nervous guy. I thought it was them the whole time. No, it was Higuchi. It was our Ganondorf dude. Wow. Thank you all for not spoiling that. Thank you for not spoiling that it was him. Was totally wrong and off base. They're trying to promote Amane as the face of Yotsuba. And so Umi is interesting here, because I kind of wondered if for a while if Umi was it. And he's kind of like, I don't know, getting this girl involved with us, and she knows L. Like, he's like, it's a little much. He's like, I don't like this idea. He's like, we should be letting Coil do all the deductions. And they kind of question it. They're like, well, why aren't you going along with this plan? And he's like, because. He's like, this isn't our job. What Ui's trying to say is that it's Coil's job to reveal Al's identity, not our own. So I like that the one guy here, that Kita kind of proposes, or whatever his name is, he proposes that he knows why Ui doesn't want to go along with it, because he secretly knows that they're being monitored by L and them. He's like, we hired him to reveal L's identity. And they're like, well, shouldn't we ask Coil what he thinks? And this guy's so quiet during all of it. Meanwhile, we go to Iber's location. You know what I get? I get a vibe from Iber. And if you've ever watched Banana Fish, I get a Blanca vibe from Iber. I really do. Like, it's the white robe, and he has the bucket of wine, and he's like in this svelte apartment by himself, and he looks so coy. I just get a Blanca vibe if you have ever watched Banana Fish from Iber. I can't explain it any other way. He just has that vibe to him. I like it. But yeah, so he's like, okay, the plan is in motion as we go. And so he's like, I still have to punish criminals when I get home. It's like he has to do homework, right? And he has the names and stuff pulled up. It's tough being Kira. So he says that it's tough being Kira. He is viewing this whole idea of Kira as a job or a duty. That he's not, and the idea of killing these men is just like homework, which is disgusting. Like, he doesn't care if they're criminals or not. He just views them as names on a page, and he's just killing them because he's been told to. That's, ugh. But it's getting interesting. Yes, this episode is getting interesting. There's no doubt that Misa Amane is the second Kira. And Rem's like, and El caught her at some point. If he's letting her move about freely, then that means she's forfeited ownership and lost all her memories. So he knows the rules. Here's the thing. He knows the rules of the Death Note. Now, whether he has read those because Ryuk's Death Note, I don't know if all the rules were written in it. The one that she has given him may have had all the rules written in it. So if he asked her the rules, that could be, or if he's read them himself, we're not sure, but he knows all the rules and knows that there's a big possibility that she's forfeited her memories and she doesn't actually remember being the second Kira. She says, I can't leave her alone. And that shot, I love that shot of him like right behind her. Right, but with Rem, I want to get a shot of that with him like illuminated. He's in shadows from the projector screen and Rem's right behind him. It's kind of great. But he says, I'm going to make Miss Amane my wife. And Rem is like, what? Rem's like, excuse me? This was not in the script. This was not in the plan. And he starts laughing and saying that he'll, oh my God, ugh. He's like, money, power, and a beautiful wife. So he doesn't even care about her power as second Kira. He just says he wants money, power, and a beautiful wife, which I guess if she is the second Kira, that could tie to that power. But he wants to marry Misa. Ew. Ew. Gross. Dude. That's not good. And Rem's like, ugh. No, girl. I will help a sister out. She's like, that's enough to make anyone jealous. I'm like, but what? I guess he's going to hide the fact that he's Kira and just make them jealous of him. Once we're married, I'll take out a lot of life insurance on her. Oh my God. And so yeah, he's planning to kill her for life insurance. So he's going to kill her after taking insurance. Because he thinks that she was second Kira, but she's forgotten her memories. And I love that Rem's like, he's disgusting. He's got to go. Yeah, Rem's just like, oh God, no. And he leaves. And so he doesn't even like acknowledge Rem is there until he leaves the room. He's like, Rem, hide the notebook in the usual place. He's the polar opposite of Light. Like, there's no calculation. There's no thinking about the killings. There's nothing. It's just homework, and then he goes along his way. It's weird, but like, you think there couldn't be anybody worse than Light as Kira? No, this guy, all about it. It's so crazy. And he doesn't even acknowledge Rem. He doesn't talk to her or anything. It's like, at least Misa and Light talked to Rem and Ryukin were their friends, or an equivalency to that. And Rem's like, I've had enough. And I like that she sits there and contemplates it. Like, she's like, I'm not supposed to go against Light's plan, but this is something we could not predict. So Rem, I find that Rem and Misa are kind of similar. They're kind of similar in that they take matters into their own hands. Even when there's a plan, we've seen when Misa was second Kira, she didn't really follow what Light said all the time. She kind of took matters into her own hands. Same with Rem. Rem's like, I know there's a plan, but there's a little snag because this man's disgusting, and he's planning to do something that's not good, that will endanger Misa, because she's like, my whole deal was I wanted to help Light because it would save Misa. And she's like, now she's in even more danger. So she takes the piece of the death note. She's like, I gotta go find her and figure what to do. She's like, right now, this is the only thing I can do for Misa's sake. She loves Misa. So yeah, the idea that she loves Misa. And she's like, I will do whatever I can, shy of killing myself, to save you. Oh, it's crazy. And so I like this idea of Ivor's there interviewing her, and he's like, Misa, you said you came to Tokyo to meet Kira. And I like that she's like, what? And Elle bunks her. I like that Elle bunks her in the head with the director's cup. It's so cute. But here's the thing. Misa is an actress. That's her whole deal. She's a model and an actress. She's a model and an actress, and she portrays herself in certain ways to certain people. And I like that he bonks her. And I love that, I can't wait to watch this in the English dub, for the record. I love that Elle's just like, stop overacting, it's cheesy. I love that he just gets onto her with the director's cup. The fact that he even has the director's cup is amazing. And she's like, this is what's called a realistic performance. And I love it. Just do it over. And she's like, oh yes, oh great, director Ryozaki. I love it. I love how dramatic she is. And he's like, if you don't take this seriously, I'll kick you. Again, establishing that Elle is a kicker. Elle is a kicker. He is, if Light is a puncher, L is a kicker. I love it. And we even had that in OP where he uses his feet. He likes to use his feet. For the record, that reminds me of Moriarty the Patriot, because Sherlock in that series knows a certain style of fighting that involves using your feet a lot. So I imagine that L knows that exact same style of fighting, connecting him with Sherlock. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. But yeah. And so then time passes and we see her getting taken. We see her taken to the Yotsuba company by Mogi, and Mogi looks absolutely terrified. He's like, I can't do this. So yeah. So we see Mogi taking her to the Yotsuba group, and he's like, I don't know, Misa. And she's like, oh, you're so tense. And she's like, just call me Misa, Mochi. And he's like, I'm not suited for this. But it's part of the mission to catch Kira, so I have to buckle down. And he's like, oh yeah, Misa. And she's like, what is it, Mochi? And he's like, we're having an interview with the Yotsuba to see if they'll use you in their ads. But it's also an infiltration. And she's like, you don't have to tell me. Of course, don't blow your cover either, Mochi. She's like, I got this. You're supposed to be my energetic and enthusiastic manager. And he's like, I'll do my best. I'm amazed they didn't tap her. They did not wiretap her through this. I am kind of amazed that they didn't. I don't know if that's a plot contrivance, if the mangaka was like, she can't be wiretapped because she's going to meet Rem in this scene. So I am amazed that they didn't do it. But then I wonder if they were afraid that they would search her and find a wiretap and then it would get discovered and then it would like blow all their covers. That's the only thing I can think of. Other than that, it's like kind of a plot contrivance. They didn't tap her at all. But it's okay because it got Rem back in the story. I'm fine. Whatever you got to do to get Rem back, I'm fine with it, right? So they do this interview, and I like that Mochi is this like Misa-Misa's manager, Kanichi Moji, and Mr. Ui, Mr. Shimura. And he's like, good luck, Misa-Misa. And she's like, you're really nailing it, Mochi. And then he's like, oh, like he immediately collapses as soon as it's over. Poor Mogi. He's like, I'm not cut out for this. And so then we have her sitting there with the team. And Iber, it's funny because Iber's there posing as John Wallace, the executive advisor for the marketing department. I'm like, he just snuck his way into the fold to do the questions and make sure that the right questions were asked. But he's posing, here's the thing, he's Coyle posing as John Wallace. He's Iber posing as Coyle, posing as John Wallace. So it's all kinds of fun. There's lots of layers, right? I feel like there's a bunch of layers to all of this. Because, yeah, we have Iber posing as, well, he's posing as Geraldo first. Posing as Geraldo Coyle. Posing as John Wallace. So he's doing like a triple thing. And then we have, with Misa, what we end up with is we have Misa, who is posing as the actress Misa for the commercials, who then poses, again, as second Kira, who is actually her from the start. So it all comes back around in the best ways. So yeah. So Misa and them have this interview with him, and she talks about everything, and then they ask about her knowing L. And I like that she's so good at acting in this. And she's like, she knows exactly what to do. She's like, oh, this is where I pause and hesitate to ask the questions. Because he's like, you're hiding something, aren't you? And everybody's like, oh, something that you don't want anyone to know. And I love we get her inner monologue here. She's like, I've got to sweat a lot and pause here. Like, she knows how to play the game. She's not dumb. Like, she did all that. I feel like half the time when she's really over dramatic and ridiculous, it's for Light's benefit. She's trying to, like, you know, make Light laugh or something, or to, like, tick off Ryuzaki. But she knows the game. Right? She's not dumb. She's pretty reliable when she needs to be. And that's what makes Misa dangerous, is because you can't tell if she's being serious or if she's just joking. Right? It's really hard to tell with her. And she's like, Misa Amane was detained by L. Now please tell us what really happened. And so they try to like question her, and she's like, I don't think it was L, but he did ask me about Kira. She's like, but I'm not the second Kira. I'm here because he found out I have nothing to do with Kira. And they're like, did you see who was detaining you? And she doesn't lie. She's like, well, I was blindfolded and there was a speaker, so I couldn't really hear the voice exactly. It was kind of hard. And so then this guy says it's more like an interrogation than an interview. The Higuchi guy. And he says, I'm going to the bathroom. So he's getting kind of fed up with the questions, but he's wanting to get her all alone. I was really concerned when she says, may I go to the restroom? This is the kind of the curious part about this, because when she said, may I go to the restroom, for a second I thought she was going to follow him. And I was like, why would she follow him? Because but it's the weirdest thing. When he walks by her, her eyes kind of like twitch and kind of quiver. It's almost as if Rem was with him and she noticed. And it kind of encouraged her to go to the bathroom. It's the weirdest thing, right? So there's this question of was she kind of baited to the bathroom without knowing it? I don't think she was, but it's so intriguing that when he walked by and Rem was probably with him, that her eyes kind of like twitched a little bit, like she felt something, like a presence or something. And then she herself went to the restroom. It's curious, right? Because Rem needed to lure her away, lure her to the restroom. So it's almost like there's that temptation there, right? And that's when Rem takes the piece of paper and touches her. And she sees her in the mirror. Now, granted, if I saw this giant monster pop up in the mirror, I would scream. I would scream and try to run out of there, but Rem doesn't give her that opportunity. She covers her mouth and holds her. And then she makes the note, Rem does, that touching her with the death note will not return her memories. So we get that established. We get that confirmed. So touching the death note does not return memories. Good to know. So if Light comes in contact with the death note again, he's not going to forget anything. He's not going to remember what was forgotten. So that's good to know. So he's not going to regain all those memories that he had while he was Kira, which is good to know, but it may not matter because we're going to talk about that in a minute. But yeah, she basically is like, look, she's like, hey, welcome back. She's like, at least now Misa can see me again. Like, Rem just loves Misa enough. She wanted her to be able to see her so she could talk to her. Which is so sad. And she's like, what is it? A monster? She's like, you're in a dangerous situation. The people from Yotsuba may kill you. And Misa's like, how does she know me? She's like, I came to tell you that. She's like, calm down and listen. And she's like, calm down. This monster looks like it's going to kill me. And she says, I'm your ally. And Misa's like, what in the world? And so that's when, and meanwhile, they're like, I wonder if Misa's all right. Like, Matsuda's like, I wonder if she's okay. Meanwhile, while all that's going on, and Rem reconnects with Misa and says that I'm your ally, that she's Misa's ally. She's Misa's friend. And Misa has established in the last episode that whoever is her friend, she won't betray. And that would include Rem. So meanwhile, we go back to Light here. Light and Elle are kind of hanging out. And Light has this conversation, and they're like, we should have at least wired her. And he says, it's just as I thought. They're definitely different people. The Kira before and after I was detained are clearly different. This look that Light has as he's like holding his face in his hands, it's interesting. He's like, the current Kira is killing off every criminal as soon as they've had their crime broadcast. So Light is saying that the third Kira is killing every criminal with a crime broadcast. That it's like, he's like, this Kira is different than the one before. The patterns are different, regardless of the situation. The previous Kira would never punish those who didn't have any intention to kill. So he says that him as Kira would only kill those with the intent to kill. So if they were a robber or if they were somebody that did petty crimes, then they weren't going to be subject. Or those with extenuating, he wouldn't have killed those. What did he say there? He said those who killed by accident. What did he say there? Go back to that real quick. We'll go back to what he said there as Kira. He said those who didn't have any intention to kill, those who killed by accident, or those with extenuating circumstances. If I were Kira, that's what I would do. So, he's saying that the real Kira would only kill those with the intent to kill. And he says those would be my targets if I were Kira. And so Light is just sitting there thinking, being like, okay, the previous Kira's criteria for killing is disturbingly close to my own ideals. So Light is saying that Kira is aligning with his own ideals. But this is the craziest thing, right? Because in the last episode, Elle was like, well, those people are going to have to die for us to prove that this person's Kira and so we can extract justice. And Light was like, well, no, we can't do that. We can't have those people die. So he's saying that Elle was willing to kill those who are technically innocent to solve a case and bring justice. But Light is like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't just kill these innocent people who hadn't done anything. I would only kill those who had committed a crime. Well, you say that, Light. You say that, but you also killed Naomi and Ray Pinbar, who had not done any of those things. So again, what's fascinating is that Light doesn't know that he killed Ray or they killed Naomi. Ray and Naomi didn't do anything. They were doing their job. They hadn't been killers. They didn't have killing intent. They were just trying to investigate, and he killed them, and they were innocent. So there's that. So, but what's funny is I was debating the last episode. I'm like, okay, well, if Light regains his powers, is he going to remember the cases before? He may not. But the crazy thing about that is he may not have to, because those ideals have been there the whole time. Bernard Black, you're talking about power corrupting versus power revealing. Well, maybe this is a case where power is revealing Light's actual ideals. This could be a case of power reveals, where Light has always had this sense of justice that, yeah, I would kill people that had killing intent. I'd get rid of them. But he never had the power to do so, and the Death Note gave him that power. But the thing of it is, I would argue on top of that, that once he had that power to enact his ideals, I do think there was some corruption. Because at that point, he stopped, he lost humanity. He stopped caring about what other people, how it affected other people. He started using Misa and didn't care about her affections, which now he seems pretty, aware of her affections. But back when he was Kira, he didn't care. And he also killed people like Ray and Naomi who did not have killing intent. They were just doing their jobs as FBI agents. They weren't trying to kill anybody. So I would argue that, yeah, the Death Note reveals that, the power reveals, but also the Death Note corrupts. It can be both. And I think that's the problem with the Death Note, is that it not only reveals who you are, but it also corrupts it as well. And so I am a little worried that Light is getting closer. He's being like, wow, yeah, no, these are my ideals. He's like, my ideals are disturbingly close to Kira's. He's like, ugh. He's like, what am I thinking? I'm not Kira. Well, you were! I must be crazy comparing myself to Kira. No, you're not! You were Kira, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then Rem tells Misa that Light is Kira. What is Light doing now? And Misa's like, she's like, I can't tell you because your hands are over my face. And then she collapses. Oh my God. And she's like, what are you? I know you're not a stalker, but you don't look human at all. And Rem's like, yeah, no, of course, I'm a Shinigami. And Misa's like, oh. She's like, we once worked together. And her face, she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, you met me? Light is Kira? And she goes, the Death Note. And she explains it. She explains how it works. So she reveals, she reveals that light is Kira. And she said that light punished criminals and became known as Kira. So she's like, just so you know, she's like, he was punishing criminals and that's what happened. And then Misa, she's like, you had the same, no, a greater power than Kira. And Misa's like, oh my God, with that power you succeeded in getting close to Light Yagami. And she basically confirms, and she goes, light is Kira and I'm the second Kira. And in her mind, she says, that's right. No, more correctly, you were. But now your memory's gone. And I love that Misa, and so Rem says this should be all going according to Light's plan. So yeah, according to plan. Aizen Sosuke would be so proud. So yeah, everything is going according to Light's plan. So yeah, he orchestrated all of this so that him and Misa could get free, so that he could go back, so that Rem could give him the Death Note back. It's all making sense, right? And Misa, she realizes not only that she is the second Kira, but that Ryuzaki was right. She knows L is right. She knows that he's been right about all this. She's like, oh shit. So I love this. She's like, so Ryuzaki's right. And Rem says, do you still love Light more than anything? And Misa's like, well, yeah. She's like, Shinigami, you really are the real thing. I was like, nobody is worried about these, but I guess since Rem seems so non-threatening and she likes it, that Misa is, but Misa and Light were both so accepting of the Shinigami, like, as soon as they meet them. I feel like L would, like, pass out because he's so, like, freaked out by them. You know everything about me. She's like, I'll believe everything you say. Just like what she told Ryuzaki in the last episode. She's like, yes, I love him more than anything. Besides, she's like, and when she says it's really awesome that Light and I were both Kira, I was like, girl, no, it's not awesome. You both were mass murderers. I don't know if that's awesome, but okay. So she says that it was awesome that her and Light were Kira together. I guess she's kind of like Higuchi. And she's like, oh, well, we were together. Isn't that poetic that we were both these mass murderers? Like Misa. And then, yeah, she says that she still loves him more than anything. And she's like, I believe you. And Rem's like, you haven't changed at all. And so, no, that is the thing. Misa has always been constant because Misa, like we talked about a few episodes ago, she's not putting on a facade. She's not putting on a mask. She's an actress. She can play a part. She can act, but she doesn't ever really change who she is. She just alters how she acts and what she knows or what she reveals that she knows. But her personality and like her core doesn't really ever change, right? In Light's case, yeah, he put on a lot of masks as Kira. And put on a lot of facades and was hiding a lot about himself. He was a lot more closed off than Misa was. And then Rem's like, your feelings towards Light will probably never change, will they? And she's like, I now believe you'll find happiness by staying with Light, which is the most insane thing. So Rem believes that Misa will be happy with Light. The funny thing about all of that is that at its core, yeah, Misa loves Light. And I don't think Light is, it's so bizarre because if Light gets the Death Note back, I'm going to be really curious how he handles Misa, right? Because if he gets the Death Note back, because before episode 16, Light was using Misa. He didn't care about her. He thought she was dumb. He thought she was just a pawn in his hand that he could use. He was pretty bad towards Misa. He thought she was an idiot. He was like, get away from me. But here, now that he's lost the memory of the Death Note, he has taken on this kind of role of being like, watching over Misa and being like, hey, are you okay? And like, hey, you're in danger. We don't want to involve you in stuff. And so he's treated her a lot differently than he did before. And so I'm going to be curious to see if he gets the Death Note back, if that's going to kind of alter his behavior towards her, or if he's going to keep up how he's been now with Misa in the future. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, Misa being happy with Light, I'm like, Rem, I know it seems that way, but I don't know. She probably needs to get away from Light if he's going to become Kira again. I don't know. But if it makes her happy. And so she's like, thank you, Shinigami. And he's just like, it's Rem. I love it. I just love that one line. It's Rem. Don't call me Shinigami. And she says the current Kira is a crooked and pathetic human. You don't know what he'll do, so be careful. And I love she gets down on Misa's level. I love that Rem is just getting on her level. I freaking love Rem. Rem is great. She loves her so much. Trust Light and let him do whatever he feels is necessary. So this is Misa kind of does not take Rem's advice, right? Because Rem says, trust Light and do what he deems is necessary. Rem trusts Light. She trusts that Light is going to keep Misa safe because Light doesn't want to die. So she's like, just trust Light, do whatever he says, we'll be fine. But Misa, she knows now that she was once the second Kira. She's like, I have to act normal, right? But she knows she was once the second Kira and that Light was Kira too. And so she realized that Light doesn't have those memories either. You should be able to tell who's Kira. Don't trust him. And so Rem does this really cool thing where she's like, I will appear right behind the man that's Kira. And it's Higuchi. And Higuchi is Kira. And she's like, that's horrible. I love, she's like, he's ugly. God, this episode's great. So we have our exchange here. We have exchanging and writing on the death note between the gods of death is no problem. So, okay. So the death gods can basically exchange death notes and write on them and nothing happens. Okay. So they could just write, hey, how's it going? And that's all there is to it. And they can exchange their death notes. Interesting. Like Ryuk and Rem could just pass notes back and forth and it's totally fine. And then the other thing, I think it's a rule that we already knew. If the god of death decides to use the death note to kill the assassin of an individual he favors, the individual's life will be extended, but the god of death will die. And that's what happened with Jealous and Misa. It's curious that at this late of the game we're getting that rule. It's very curious. So meanwhile, Light is sitting there just like mulling over and having an existential crisis of, was he actually Kira? We know the answer. And Elle is just sitting there with this cup of coffee, just kind of monitoring to see what's going to happen, right? Interesting. And then Misa shows back up with Mogi. She's like, oh, hey! And she's like, I'm so tired. And she just goes and sits on Light's lap like it's nothing. I love that Elle's just like, well, okay then. And Light's like, hey, like, hey, I guess I'll let you do this, whatever. And he's like, how was it? And so they hired Misa for the ads, right? I love it. I also love that Light's just sitting there and Misa's just on his lap. And I love that Daddy Yagami's looking in the corner, out the corner of his eye. Daddy Yagami's like, why are you on my son's lap? You harlot. It's great. And Light's just like, I'll just let this happen. It's fine. Also, Light without the shirt underneath, like the turtleneck. Only he could pull it off. She's like, I got asked out by 7 of the 3 of the guys already. And they're like, oh my god. I love that. I just love Daddy Yagami. It's so good. It's so great. That look. She's like, I just have to accept them and investigate them, right? It's going exactly as planned. And no, the plan has been canceled. So Elle's plan was to have Misa investigate the council. All right. But Light is saying, no, we're not doing that anymore. Light, get on here. I'm losing my blue marker, so I'm going to switch it over. Light is saying that they're canceling because it is too dangerous. You know that idea that you just like do something on instinct, or that you have like a premonition or something and you just do something because it seems like you have a gut feeling about it? There's a part of me that wonders if Light is actively keeping Misa safe and wanting to keep her safe because he knows, like his body instinctually knows, like a part of his mind still recalls that Rem is going to kill him if he doesn't keep Misa safe. And I wonder if there's a part of Light's brain that's like, no, we need to keep Misa safe, so we can't have you do these things. I wonder if there's just like a part of his brain and his body that instinctually is like, Rem said she'd kill me if something happened to Misa, so he's trying to keep her out of it. I don't know. I wonder if that's a thing. But he tells Misa that the plan has been canceled. And she's like, why? It's been going so well. And he says, you'll be in danger if we do this. He's like, I won't stop you from appearing in their commercials, but from now on, deny that you were suspected of being of the second Kira and that you were detained by L. Mogi will be your bodyguard. And you will just be an entertainer. And she says, oh. And it looks like she's about to speak up. It looks like she's about to talk back and be like she knows something, right? It looks like she's about to say that she knows something, but she stops herself. And she's like, and remembers Rem's words. It says, trust Light and do what he deems necessary. And then she says, if that's what you say, then that's what I'll do. And L, like, he does that blink there where he's like, what? He like stops mid drink and is like, wait, hold on, what did you just do? He's very suspicious suddenly. Something's up. And he looks back at her like, what are you doing? What's going on? And she says, I'm tired and tomorrow's shoot isn't early in the morning, so I'm going to bed. And I just love that image of them chained up together. It's very cute. They still have the handcuffs on. Of course they do. And she's like, thank you for worrying about me, Light. But I've come up with a good plan. Granted, it's an insane plan. It's a plan only Misa could come up with. I'm like, oh, girl. But I'm like, you're not doing what Rem asked you to do. You're taking matters into your own hands. I'm going to be of use to you. So she decides to do her own plan. Her own plan to prove herself to Kira. And I'm wondering if Elle at the end of this episode is like, this is all being rather suspicious. That's happening now all of a sudden. Something's up. And she's like, do you want to come to bed with me, Light? And I like Light's face where he's like, what? I love where he's like, what are you talking about, Misa? And she's like, I understand. That's for after we catch Kira, isn't it? Light, you better run. He's like, you don't have to be shy, Light. And Light's just like, And then I love that Elle just throws it in his face. He's like, come on, Light, you don't have to be shy. And he's like, I'm not being shy. I love his angry badger face where he's like, I don't want to sleep with her. Oh, and he's like, why are you answering so seriously, Light? I love it. Their exchange there. Elle's just poking him with the stick, right? Because I think Elle knows that Light does not want to sleep with her, but he just couldn't help just like poking fun, right? And so what amazes me in this is that she gets a girl to like, she says, great job today, Senpai. It's like her body double. She gets her body double to change outfits with her. And she's like, oh, Nori, you look so good in that nurse outfit. And she's like, you think so? And they swap wigs and everything. I'm like, are you kidding? So whoever this Nori girl is, oh my God. She comes out and she's like the women's medical center. And then that's when she gets him to pick her up. Oh my God, girl. You are bold. Misa, you are very, very bold. And she's like an amazing car. And I like that even the onlookers are like looking at the cars and they're watching her get in. And of course he's like, nice nurse's outfit. And she's like, oh, you like it? Ugh, he's gross. And so then props to Mogi. Props to Mogi for being like, shit, something is wrong. And she's like, and he was like, wait a minute. I love that he looks at her and his face when he realizes that it is not her is, I feel for Mogi. That face. So he's like, where's Misa? And she's like, she's on a date. And he's like, damn it. Oh my God. You lost her, Mogi. Because, yeah, they're already gone. So this is all so interesting that Rem's there in the background. And I love Misa just being like, what do I do? How do I make this work? Like, I love her just contemplating. She's like, Ryusuke Higuchi, he's the annoying pervert. And we get the flashback from the episode with Matsuda, and she's like, and he's like got his arm wrapped around her and like pulling her into him, and she's like, yeah, sure. And she clearly doesn't like him, but she recognizes him from the meeting. And he's like, oh, you're really my type. And she's just like in her head being like, you're an annoying pervert. Who's been constantly sending texts ever since that party. And they said that he was hogging her. It's horrible that this guy is Kira. Because she has in her mind what her ideal of what Kira is. In her mind, Kira is this person that only punishes the bad people, right? And Higuchi is not that. He's just a sleazeball who's just killing indiscriminately because he's been told to. Like, he doesn't have any mind of his own. He's just doing it because Rem told him that that's how he gets to keep the death note. And she's like, it's gross. And it's like, Misa, shall we get something to eat? And so she's like, oh, well, just don't take me anywhere weird, okay? And so I love that Rem is there. And she's like, it's all right because I can kill people. And Rem's back there being like, Rem is like the third wheel on the worst date imaginable. And Rem's just like, what is she trying to like give me a code for something? And Rem's like, what are you thinking, Misa? Is this what Light Yagami wants you to do? Nope, this is not part of the plan. Misa's acting on her own. And she's like, no, Misa is just saying that she wants me to kill Higuchi if something happens. So yeah, it is a code. And I do think she's correct. I think Misa was trying to give a code that Rem will kill Higuchi if something happens. That's what she's getting at. She's like, if something goes awry, you're going to have to kill him. Which, we've established that in this episode. So if something in the future happens between Higuchi and Misa is in danger because she doesn't have the powers of Kira at the moment, that she's given Rem permission to kill him if something goes awry. Which was not part of the plan, let's be sure. Not part of the plan, but it seems to be working in their favor because if they kill this guy, then, it's over. That's a funny thing to say, Misa. You can kill people. I'd have to go back and think, like, what, I guess depending on the circumstance in which he dies, what will happen to his death note. I guess, Rem could pick it up, like she did with Jealous, but I don't know if any of the rules would apply. I guess it depends on the situation. And she says she's the second Kira. I love the way that her eyes narrow. It's kind of like when characters reveal themselves, like you had Elle being like, I'm Elle. And Kira, Light has been like, I'm Kira. And now she says, I'm second Kira. So we've had the progression, right? We've had I'm Elle, I'm Kira, I'm second Kira. It's all come full circle, right? And he's like, and he doesn't believe her at first. He's like, if she was the second Kira, she can't be right now. She wouldn't have any memory of it. He's like, what's up? What's going on? And so they decide that they're going to test each other. And he's like, you don't have to lie like that to protect yourself. He says, I'm actually quite the gentleman. And I'm like, if you have to say you're a gentleman, you're not a gentleman. First and foremost, if you have to say that about yourself, you're probably not it. And she's like, well, I don't feel like proving I'm the second Kira, right? To anyone other than Kira. And he's like, you'll only show Kira. What do you mean? And she says, it's my dream to be Kira's bride. I know Kira needs me by his side. So is there some truth? There's the phrase from another series that, says within every lie is some truth. So with Misa, her saying that she wants to be Kira's bride. She wants to be Kira's bride and knows that Kira needs her. That the crazy thing is that, yeah, Kira kind of does need her, knowing that she exists. He needs her because otherwise she's a loose cannon. And that's how it was in the past. Light needed to keep Misa in check because he knew that she could possibly ruin his plans or get caught or something like that. But the whole Kira's bride thing, I'm like, I don't know if Light's ready to marry you, honey, but it's a bold step, right? We'll see if it goes down or not. But yeah, but it's also aligning to what he wants. He wants to marry her anyway. And so he's like, if she's a second Kira, then it's clear from the Sakura TV incident, she has the Shinigami eyes. So he knows about everything. Yeah, he's got to go. He knows all the rules, right? So if it's true, I have to have her by my side. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, Kira, the way it works is that if she has the Shinigami eyes and she's second Kira, then Kira needs to keep her on tabs because otherwise she could be a threat. And so he decides that he'll test her and ask her to kill someone. And so she does. He tells her that he's Kira, and she's like, really? Like, the way she reacts, it's like, it was exaggerated, overreacting, but that's how one would act in that situation, right? She knows how to act. He's like, yeah. He's like, really? And she's like, then prove it. Let's show each other proof. And he's like, that's impossible. It would be risky to show how I kill. Right? And he can't technically do it because he doesn't have the notebook with him. So he doesn't do like Light and keep a piece of paper in his wallet. Again, does Light still have that piece of paper in his wallet? I'm sure he does. He just hasn't known to pick it out yet, right? So he's like, I can't show you because I'm not near my death note. And she's like, oh, well, I would show someone if they might be Kira. She's like, nothing would happen if I didn't. And he's like, then kill someone. I may be Kira. And she's like, fine, but I only kill bad people. And he's like, a bad person, huh? And the thing that's funny about it is, he knows bad people. And so he shows her one instantly, Ginzo. He shows her and like explains that he collects insurance money from people and he makes people pay with their insurance money. He's like, he's pretty bad. He's like, and she says, can you immediately check if they die? And he's like, yeah, all I have to do is call somebody. And she asks him to turn around. And so she writes the name on the piece of paper and gives it to Rem. And Rem's like, I have to kill him, don't I? And she's like, then Higuchi will trust you. So Rem is like, fine. She's like, this isn't part of Light's plan, but you are in danger, and I love you more than Light. I love you more than I trust Light's plan. So she's like, if it saves you, I'll go along with your plan and kill the guy that Higuchi gives you so that you can prove you're second Kira. And she wrote his name down on the death note. And then he's convinced that she is second Kira. She's like, see? And he's like, she killed a person I chose right here. And I was really worried when he slams her down and gets super close to her. Like, I was really worried that he was going to do something he should not do. But he stops and says, so if I'm Kira, you'll marry me, right? And she's like, why are you serious all of a sudden? Get off of me. She's like, no. He says, because I'm Kira. And she's like, then prove it. And he's like, I can't kill until I go home. You understand, right? And she says, well, that's no good then. The way she says that is so good. She's like, well, that's not going to work then. And she pushes him away. She's like, it might be a plan to lure me into your house. She's like, no. And that's so true. Because it's like, yeah, she's like, how do I know you're not some creep trying to lure me into your house? How do I know you're Kira? That's really sketchy that you say that you have to only kill when you get home. Weird. And she's like, oh, I know. She's like, then stop killing criminals. I love it. She's like, if you're Kira. And her eyes kind of lose that light. They kind of look like lights when he's Kira. They kind of look a little soulless. They do. She's like, if you're Kira, then you can do it. Then begin killing when I tell you to, and I'll believe you. And that's when she clicks on her phone. And so she says, killing criminals is something that only Kira could do. So here's the thing. She only started recording that conversation to get Higuchi to reveal he's Kira. She is smart. She did not reveal anything about her being second Kira, about her knowing about Kira. She didn't reveal any of that information in that conversation she recorded. When she turned on that phone, the very first thing she said is that killing criminals is something that only the real Kira can do. And he says, that's a good idea. And he says, all right, I'm Kira. So in order to get you to trust me, I'm going to stop killing criminals starting from now. And when you know I'm Kira, we'll get married. And that's all that she had to record. She didn't have to record that she was the second Kira or any of that. She like made it to where it's like she got the information without having to reveal anything about what Rem told her. That is genius, girl. And L looks like he is about to shit a brick. Like he's just like, are you joking? And she says, and so, Higuchi is Kira. I solved the case! And Mogi and Matsuda are like floored, and Yagami is like, what? And she's like, I solved the case for you guys. Look at me. And they're like, now we know Kira's identity. And the killings that have been bothering the chief will stop! The killings that have been bothering the chief will stop. Matsuda, you cinnamon bun! You precious bean! Aw, he was mainly worried about the killing stopping so the chief would be okay. Aw. She says, you're amazing, Misa-MISA. And then she's like, yep! And she does like the Team Rocket pose, where she's just like, everything is great. Thanks for acknowledging my greatness. And Light's like, L, I love that Light immediately looks at L like what we doing? And L looks like, oh dear, this is not good. And then she goes over to them both. Oh my God. I freaking love it. I love it. Because now Elle is in a hard spot. Elle is in a hard spot because they have concrete proof that this man claims to be Kira. So they have to act on it. So Misa basically just accelerated Light's plan with Light not even realizing it. She just accelerated it. Because now Elle's going to be like, well, shit, now we have to go after Higuchi because we've narrowed it down who is Kira. We've narrowed it down. We have to act on that information. Everybody else is going to ask Elle to act on it. They have to do it. So they're going to solve the case. And then what will happen? Then once they prove Higuchi is Kira. Now the question in all of this is, will Higuchi, here's the thing, will Higuchi reveal to Elle the rules of the Death Note? I think it's going to get so close. I think they're going to catch Higuchi. He's going to be like, well, I'm going to tell you all how this works before I die. And Rem's going to kill him before he can reveal it. Because Rem now knows that Misa wants him dead. So I feel like he's going to try to write Amani's name in the Death Note. And Rem's going to kill him before he can do that. But that would kill Rem. So she can't do that. But that would kill Rem. So she can't just prevent him from writing the name in the Death Note, can she? Now she can kill him if he's not threatening Amane. She could just kill him, right? Ooh. But Rem said she would die for Amane. So maybe Rem will sacrifice herself to save Misa from him. I don't know. I feel like they're either going to catch Higuchi and he's not going to reveal anything about the Death Note. And then Light and Misa will be free for whatever that entails. So there'll be that. Or from that point on, I feel like maybe Higuchi will get cornered, try to reveal something, and Rem will kill him. But and Rem could kill Higuchi without him writing anything in the Death Note. If Rem just decides to write Higuchi's name in the Death Note, she can, and she can kill him, and nothing will happen to Rem. But if he's trying to kill Amane and she prevents it by killing him, by killing the assassin, then it would affect Rem. So that's the thing. I think Higuchi will get close to revealing the information to Elle about the Death Note, and Rem will kill him before he can do so, is what I think is going to happen. But they now know it's him, so they have to go after him. So what do we do from there, right? So, oh my gosh. Yep, this is getting crazy. And Light's like, what do we do? So this could all get wrapped up next episode. I feel like it's not. I feel like there's still some loose ends and stuff, but they're going to go after Higuchi, so what do we do now? Man, Rem getting involved back in this whole thing is wonderful. It is like, I've missed the Shinigami. It's made me realize how much I've missed the Shinigami. So yeah, this is great. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens. What happens next episode. see how it goes, right? See how everything goes down. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, hints, or clues. But I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about Misa in this episode, about Mogi, our poor guy, and about Elle and Light and what's going down. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Death Note. Bye.